Thank you very much. I'll be the next one to say good morning. Everybody says that when they get up here, so good morning. Hey, there's extra notes up here, but we're not going to use all of them, so don't worry. I am in charge right now. I'm leading a new venture. I'm not sure if you've heard of what those things are. It's what the denomination is trying to work when they don't call them church plants because they don't fit and they look a little different and they smell a little different. So that's what I'm doing. I lead a new venture in Markham, Stouffville. So that's where I have been. That's what I do. That's where I am. And it's one of those places that gives me constant opportunity to come to grips with the fact that I have an issue, I have a problem, I have a series of them. And they start with, I believe in God, but. I'm not sure if you have anything like that in your life that you can think of. I believe in God, but. I have a number of those. The one we're going to look at today is I believe in God, but I trust in money. And we have this problem. When you start with the idea, I believe in God, we think of certain things. There is a term called a practical atheist. And a practical atheist is someone who says that they believe in God, but then live as if He doesn't exist. Practical atheist is someone who says they believe in God, but then live as if He doesn't exist. It doesn't change their life. And this is a struggle that I have. So we're looking at one of those struggles today. Maybe you have the same sort of thing. I believe in God, but I trust in money. We know that 94% of people in North America say that they believe in God or divine spirit or the big man in charge or whatever that phrase is that they use for the spiritual thing on top. 94% of people believe in that, but we know the 94% of people don't live like He exists or He matters. And this is the struggle that we have, and we say them, but what we really have to say quite often is me. I believe in God, but. Luke 12:34 starts us off, and this is going to be the jumping place. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. You've probably heard that before. Jesus is trying to help us to see things in a new way. Because the reality is, most of us don't treasure God. We don't know how. We don't know what that looks like. We don't know how to do that. We're not familiar with that. And the things of this world just happen to be here. Right? I can see them, I can touch them, I can be involved in them. And so I understand this much better than I understand things of God, spiritual things. I'm not as familiar with those. And so my treasuring is easier to do with things that I can see, things that I can touch. And this is where I think many of us struggle with being a practical atheist. We say we believe in God, but we are convicted by our own lives that we don't live out some of those beliefs. They're not real for us in how we would choose to live. We believe in God, but we trust in money. Well, what does it mean to trust in money? What does that look like? One of the things that we do is we believe that money will provide happiness. We don't say that, right? We're not going to come up and say, I trust money for happiness. My name's Graham. We don't greet each other like that. We wouldn't talk about things like that. But we can see by the way that we live, these things start to come out. How many of you would say that you believe money does not buy happiness? Money does not buy happiness, okay? How many of you, and be honest, how many of you would say a little bit more this month would be okay? Right? Okay, so we're starting, there's a little bit of a disconnect here, right? Money doesn't buy happiness. Let's try. Give me a shot at it, right? There's a disconnect between there, what we view that money is for and what we view God does. Two separate things for the most of us. That's the way we see them. And so we have that disconnect. A little bit more would help. A little bit more might make me feel happy. If you look at the people in our country today, there are so many folks, more perhaps in the United States, a little bit farther south, but there are so many people who are drowning in debt. And if they're not drowning, they're on the edge of drowning. If one thing goes wrong, it all comes apart. And there's a number of reasons. Certainly we can take into the fact that a bad relationship could really mess you up financially. A significant, extreme kind of illness could do that. Maybe a string of bad luck can put you in that. But for the most part, what we will find is that people who are on the edge of being drowned in debt, or actually already drowned in debt, are there because of choices that they made, that they believed that money would buy happiness. And so they bought the house that they couldn't afford. They bought the car that they couldn't afford. They went for the hair restoration surgery that they couldn't afford. They went for the clothing that they couldn't afford. They went for the cell phone and the cell phone plan that they couldn't afford. They went for the gadgets that they couldn't afford. All with the belief that these things are going to make us happy. We believe in God. We go to church. We know stuff about theology. We can check boxes that will say, this is what I believe in. But in so much of our life, we will find that we trust in this. That this is what we look for. This is where I believe the happiness will come from. If I could just have a little bit of this, and granted that's a little bit, it's not going to buy me enough happiness. I'm going to need a little bit more to buy me some real happiness. But if I had a little bit, my happiness can come from that way. Second place that we look for money to provide us something is security. Now, maybe you're not one of those people who says, I have to buy a lot. I don't need to store things up. I don't need to buy everything new. That's not what I'm about. I'm not a fancy kind of person. I just have enough where I am. But what I do believe is that money will make me secure. And if I can pay off my debt, and I can buy insurance, and I can invest wisely, then I'll be okay. That come what may with the economy, the stock market, natural disasters, I'm going to be okay because I have a diversified portfolio and I am financially secure. And this is the way we strive. We work in such a way that we will believe that this is where it's going to take us. I will be financially secure. I don't need to worry about that. And implicitly what we're saying is, and I won't need God. I won't need His intervention because I am, in fact, independent. I've got it all under control. I'm A-okay. I'm all right. No matter what happens, my money will keep me safe. And instead of believing fundamentally, first of all, that God is my provider, God is my creator, God is my sustainer, He will do all that I need, I believe I can say that now that I'm financially secure. As long as I'm financially secure, I can believe whatever God you want me to believe in. But I'm not willing to take that first step to say that God will provide for me even if I don't have that financial nest egg. Don't mess with the stuff that makes me feel secure. Don't mess with the stuff that makes me feel safe. Don't talk about another stock market drabble. Don't say the R word again because that ruins people's lives because money is what we're so familiar with. Why is it? Why is it such a big deal? Because I believe Jesus taught us this, and I believe that we can see it for ourselves, that money is the number one competitor for our heart. For most of us, that's the way it works. The number one competitor for our heart. Scripture is really direct here. Check out 1 Timothy 6, starting at verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Man, that's a famous verse, horribly misquoted all over the place. People butcher that thing. Is money evil? Okay, is there a sign that says respond? Is money evil? Does money buy evil things? Possibly. But everything you buy with money is not evil, right? Money in and of itself is not bad. The love of money. The love of money. And it goes on. And the story, maybe you will see this as a story for your life. Maybe you've seen parts of this. Some people, eager for money, personal choice. No one forced them. Eager for money have wandered, didn't realize that they were leaving the faith, but left the faith as they were eagerly pursuing the money. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Self-inflicted. Ouch. Not looking for any more self-inflicted grief or pain in my life. But this is what happens. You don't see what you're looking at. I just needed to get some money, and in the pursuit of that, you wandered. Didn't mean to, wasn't your intention, it just sort of happened. You wandered away, and in wandering, you left your faith, and you pierced yourself with grief. Jesus goes on, Luke chapter 16, verse 13, he says, "No servant can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." You can't serve them both. Not God and money together. Why did he say that? Why did Jesus talk about money so much throughout the whole time he was here? Because he understands that money is one of the key competitors for our heart, for what we trust, for what we put our faith in, for where we find our hope. Why is it a competitor? Well, because it's a false god. And it has a name. We don't call it by its name, but certainly in the olden days they did. They had a name for it. The god's name is Mammon. And Mammon is a liar. Mammon wants to be number one, wants to be in charge. God wants us to worship, serve, love, and depend on Him. It's okay to use money. Go ahead, spend it, use it, do it wisely. It's neutral. Worship, love, and serve God, then use money. But what happens is, and maybe you can feel this in yourself as well, I know this is what happens to me, as I stop being focused on what I'm doing, I allow things to change without even knowing it. I tend to worship, serve, love, trust, money, and use God. That's the way I'll approach Him now. God, give me more of this. That's how the prayers start to come. God, what I need is this. Things would be okay if I had a little bit more of this. I'd be content. I'd be safe. My children would be okay. We'd be all right if we had a little bit more of this. And we start to see this as what we need. And we fail to see God as the provider of all that we need, beyond all that we can ask or imagine. We don't need money. We need God's provision. Sometimes He uses money, but when we think about putting ourselves in control, money is what we want so that we can dispense it as we would prefer. It really is the heart of the thing. When you come down, and we don't see it directly, but you say, I'm coming to church. I want to serve you, God. I want to find out more about you. I want my life to be transformed. Help me to understand the Bible. Change my life. But, I need this stuff. I like it. I'll nod to you, God. I'll make sure that you're always in my conversation. But it's easier to have you in my conversation if at first I have enough money. Enough money. The whole security thing goes deep. You think about it for yourself. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking very much to me. This is where the idea comes from, right? This is my struggle. I say, I will feel secure when I have enough liquid, disposable assets to make me feel safe. And I don't say, my God has promised that He will never leave me or forsake me. He will always provide for everything that I need. I don't believe it in the way that I live. Think it. Say it. Don't live it. This is the challenge. Do I really believe that God's going to do those things for me? So we're going to look at a couple of stories about rich guys, because it's nice to look at rich people, right? We like to look at them from a distance, admire them, copy them, get some ideas from how to be rich, and so we're going to do that. The first guy, he's a very intelligent young man. He's educated, he's sharp, he's authoritative, he's a good-looking young man. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if he was to walk on the stage this morning, we could introduce to you the bachelor, the rich young ruler. He is here, he is the guy, he wants to find God, he wants to know about salvation. He wants to know about eternal life. How do I be saved? This is what he comes to Jesus with. A very moral guy. What do I need to do to have eternal life? And Jesus responds to him really directly, really focused. And it's the only time that Jesus says anything like this to anyone. And he answers the guy and he says, if you want to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. For those of you who have crossed the line and you've prayed that prayer of faith, you've asked for God to forgive your sin, you've asked Him to be the Lord of your life, what kind of situation would you be in if that was the question that you had that day? The day that you made that prayer. If Jesus said that to you, sort of eyeball to eyeball, here we go. You want to be saved? Go sell everything. Who's in? I don't see a lot of hands. This is a real challenging thing that he asked this guy to do. It's the only guy he ever asked that to do. Right? He didn't say it sort of to everyone. It was the only one. Why? Why him? Well, Jesus is a really perceptive guy. He's very smart and he can read people really well. And I believe he looks at the guy and he says, you're a practical atheist in this area. Your desire is to pursue God. You want to do that. You want to grow. You're asking about eternal life. Tell me what I have to do and I will do it. But I can sense in you that you have another love. I sense in you that there's going to be a struggle and it's going to be around money. This is what it's going to be. I believe in God, but I want to pursue God, but. And there's a holdback. And we see what happens when verse 22, after Jesus speaks, the young man heard this and he went away sad because he had great wealth. The bills were more important to him than God. The rich guy said, I'm sorry, Jesus, I'm just not willing to do that. I'm not willing to give up my stuff. I'm not willing to give up what I have. I'm not willing to give up my security, my status. Why should I? What's the problem anyways? What difference does it make? And that's why Jesus continues this conversation. It goes on. A great passage for you to read sometime this week. Read the whole thing. Jesus continues the conversation because it's painful. He goes on, he's talking to his disciples, and he says, paraphrasing, you guys got to understand, it's really, really, really hard for a rich person to come to faith. It's really, really hard for rich people to come to Jesus, to come to salvation. They're at an extreme disadvantage because they have so much that distracts, so much else that they can look at, so much else that they think that they deserve, that'll keep them safe. They don't need God in that same way, and they're extremely distracted. Very hard for them to put God first. That's the problem with rich people. How many of you came this morning in a car, van, motorcycle, horse? How many? Anybody? Okay, if you came in a motorized vehicle today, you're in the top 3% of the richest people in the world. Did you think like that when you got up this morning? When I say rich, did you think about yourself? Think about somebody else, right? The rich people. Rich people compared to me. You never stop to think that the top 3% of the richest people in the world, that's what we are. This is why it's hard for us to have a relationship with Jesus. Because there's so much that distracts us. There's so much else that we can have. There's so much that we believe we can do by ourselves, so I don't need God because I got it. I got it. I can handle this. This is why it's difficult for us. The story that goes on there speaks very much to us. It speaks to me. That's my struggle. I believe so often that I can do things by myself, that somehow I earned it and I deserve it. It's all okay. Second rich guy comes up. He encounters Jesus. He's not nearly as moral. He's not a nice guy. He's a bad guy. He's despised. People don't like him at all. But he comes up. He wants to see Jesus. But he's a short guy, not a very tall fella, gifted in the shortness. And he had a short guy complex with a long name. His name is Zacchaeus. And he wanted to meet Jesus. But he's a tax collector. We don't have a positive view of most tax collectors now, but then it was much worse because he was a legal criminal. What he could do is he could go up to anybody and say, the tax for you, calculating in his head, Rome wants $50. So okay, you owe me $70 for Rome. And you have to pay. There's no forms, which is really nice actually if you think about it. None of those forms you have to fill out, no T1 or T3. Here's your payment. The problem is he can just tack on whatever he wants as a service charge. And you have to pay because standing beside him is a Roman guard with a spear and a sword. And if you don't pay, they go through the house to help you pay. They'll take what it takes. So he gives the money back to Rome, $50 for Rome, takes whatever he wants for himself. People would hate a tax collector regardless of what nationality they were. So if he was a Roman, they'd hate him. But this guy's Jewish. He's ripping off his own people. He looks at them and says, I don't favor you at all. I choose Rome. I'm a Jewish guy with Roman muscle. Pay up. And so the people hate him. Jesus is coming to town. He wants to see Jesus. It's a big deal. Short fella, little guy, big crowd, no stands to sort of get up high in the air, so he has to climb a tree. He climbs a tree because he's a wee little man, and a wee little man was he, climbs the tree so that he can see. And he sees Jesus, and Jesus sees him. And Jesus says, "Hi, Zacchaeus. I want to eat with you. I want to come to your house and eat with you." And Zacchaeus says, "That's great. Let's do this." And so they go, they have supper, they eat. And while he's there, this is the amazing part, right? Just regular stuff happening. Somehow, time with Jesus gave Zacchaeus an insight. And that insight went something like this. Luke chapter 19, verse 8. Zacchaeus stood up, sitting down for supper. He's like, I can't take this anymore. Enough. I'm standing up. I'm going to make a declaration. He says, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. If I've cheated anyone out of anything, I'll pay it back 4 times the amount." In other words, Jesus, I've seen you. I've been with you. I get it. All of a sudden, everything changes. All of a sudden, everything that was important to him that morning, that week, the whole year before, everything that he valued, it suddenly changed. He used to be all about the bling-bling, about the money, about the image, about security, about whatever he could have, the power that he would have. And in that moment, when he saw Jesus, when he understood who Jesus was and the possibility that was open for him, it all changed. He was a different person. And at the end, he said, "This stuff that I have, it doesn't matter anything like you matter. I want you. Here's half my stuff," right off the bat. Let's start with that. And it goes on. And Jesus talks to him. He says, "Today, salvation came to this house." Now, salvation did not come to that house because he gave half of his wealth. Don't misread that. Salvation came to that house, and then he gave 50%. Because salvation came, he gave 50%. That's the way it works. Because he truly saw Jesus. Because he recognized who he was. And he saw these things that I'm holding on to. They're nothing. Nothing in comparison to what you offer me. You are the true Savior. You're the King of Kings. All of a sudden, it's nothing. It doesn't matter to me like it once did. And I can tell you, that's a story like I've had. I'm a pastor, and when I'm far from God, I can see the change happening. And you say, "But you're a pastor. You're never far from God." It happens, and it happens plenty. When I drift, when I'm far back from God, what I sense is that the stuff around me, it's shinier. It's nicer. I need it more. I want it. When I'm close to God, I can feel that there's a change. It's still shiny, but it doesn't shine in the same way. I don't feel like I need it as much. I don't hear the cry as much. I can still use it. I can still have it, but it doesn't have me. And that's the big difference. That you can sense that this sort of change happens. That when my focus is on God, the other things, they're just not as appealing. It's not that I don't care. I just don't see them as much. I don't hear them in the same way. They don't call to me. I'm not consumed by them. When you are close to Him, that other stuff loses its power, and you have a refocused way of seeing. There's a couple of examples I want to show so you can see how will this change in your life. What will that look like? When you fall in love with Jesus, you'll fall in love with Him because you fear Him now. You know who He is. You can't be lukewarm because you've seen Him, and that's made a change in you. You're not the same anymore. Your values have changed. When you fall in love with Jesus, you become strangely content. And I say strangely because the people around you won't get it. Because they're not content. The vast majority of the people that you meet every single day are discontent. Maybe that's you. I'm just not happy where I am. I'm discontent. I'm not satisfied. 1 Timothy 6:17, Paul says to us, "Command those who are rich in this present world," that's us, "not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope, their faith, their trust in wealth, which is so uncertain, to put their faith, their hope, their trust in God, who richly provides us with" how much? How much? Do you believe that? Because your life will be transformed if you actually believe this. Not in your head. Not if somebody else asks you advice for their life. Then it comes out of your mouth as you believe in God, He'll provide everything that you need. Will your life be different because you actually believe that what it says up here is true? Put my hope in God, who richly provides us with everything we need. You don't need to go to the Greek for this one. If you believe this and it is lived out in your life, you will be transformed. You won't be, maybe you don't want to be transformed. That was my view, right? If I'm transformed, then I have to give away my money. So why be transformed? Because I don't want to give away my money? When you are transformed, you see value differently. Things are of different importance to you. This is something that's come up, and this is a very big deal for me and my family right now. My family and I. I'm sorry, bad grammar. Like I said, I'm leading a new venture, and if you know anything about a new venture, the first word new means that nothing works, right? So there's no system set up for me. My salary ended April 15th of last year. Up until this point, I have received no salary. I'm doing a job that I'm doing because I'm choosing to do it, not because I make money at it. And we have not lacked for anything. This year, at some point, you've worried about a payment. You've worried about a mortgage payment, a rent payment, a car payment. How are we going to buy Christmas gifts? You've worried about something like that. We haven't. I don't know why. This year, none of those things bothered us. The money keeps coming. It comes from weird places. I have a dozen stories that I can tell you how when we needed this stuff, it appeared. We never got to the place where we worried about money, because now we see every single dime as provision from God. We see it all. The stuff that I took for granted before, we just pay that because I got money, I'll just pay for that. Now everything we do is God's provision. We see Him so much more around us, and we say at the same time, I'm at peace. I'm content. Everything that I need has been provided for me. And what I wanted when we started this process, I wanted so desperately to live in faith. To put my trust in God. That if God doesn't show up, I'm in big trouble. I didn't want it to be somebody else's story. I don't want to read about the Old Testament. I don't want to know what happens in Irian Jaya. I want to know what happens in my life. God, I'm putting my faith in you. Will you show up? And He has been completely and entirely faithful this entire year. I'm at peace. And that's a gift from God. That's no bragging on my part, because there's nothing to do with the way I work in there. This is God changing me. Second thing, when you fall radically in love with Jesus, you're going to become irrationally generous. The things of the world won't hold you anymore. And you'll see what you have as a great responsibility. So in the same time, every time we were able to see that God is providing for us, what we were thinking immediately is, I'm scared about the whole process. So you don't make God mad. I'd like to say it was all perfect faith, right? It doesn't work like that at all. It was like this mumbo-jumbo magic that we were trying to do. I get money, I have to give money away because that's what makes God happy. So that's what we did. So this year, my wife and I gave away more money than we did when we had 2 salaries in the house. We have 0 salaries in the house. We work some other stuff. Money keeps coming in. More money given away. It's not me. I'm a greedy person. I want more. But the change is happening, and we start to see it around us, that we just keep giving away. And every time we gave away money, more money came. It was crazy. Do you know that as you sit around these people, that some of them you know, some of them you don't know, that 21% of the churchgoers in North America give 0 to their church? Nothing. How do you come here? How do you have a relationship with God that you think is going to work? And you can say that 21% of you, almost a quarter, give nothing. You hold it tightly. 71% of the Church of North America give less than 2%. You've got to take a moment to own that for a little bit, because that's you and me. That's us. We say, where is our relationship with God? How come it's not vibrant? How come we don't feel like we can do everything? Where is the God who works and transforms? I believe with everything in me that the tithe is biblical. The first 10% of whatever you have is holy unto the Lord, and we return it to Him joyfully because it's His. And when I return it to Him with joy, it does so much good. It does good for me. It does good for the rest of the world. It releases things. He said, test me in this. You will find me faithful. There is nothing else that God tells you or allows you to test Him in except this. He says, please test me. I get to test God about his faithfulness. It's not an easy thing. The first time my wife and I, we firmly committed to doing this. We didn't have a lot of money, because no one ever has a lot of money, right? We didn't have a lot of money, and we were scared. We're supposed to give 10% of everything we've got to God first? Do you know what that's going to do? If I give away 10% that I'm already used to either investing or spending, do you know what that's going to do? That's going to force me to change the way that I live. Yes. Yes. It's exactly right. Because if you're like me, you don't want to change. I don't want to change my lifestyle for God. I don't want to change my lifestyle for anyone. And so I resist. And in doing this, it forced me to change my life, forced me to change my priorities, forced me to say something different. And at the same time, with a little bit of fear, I said, God, you better show up. I want to find you faithful in this. Never lacked in that time. I could always have more, right? I've never lacked. It's always come. And that reprioritizing your life enables you to see things in a whole new way, that I serve a holy God that is faithful, and He will not let me fall. This idea of us giving a little bit as long as it doesn't hurt the weak, I don't want to change my lifestyle at all, giving my leftovers to God, this is not new to us. This has gone on for years. In the Old Testament, they talk about it all the time. The idea was you're supposed to bring your best lamb to God for sacrifice. Bring the very best one. And these guys are the same as we are. What they said is, but check out this lamb. It's sleek. It's robust. It's going to sell for some serious coin. So what I'm going to do is not give that one. But don't wait. I got one back here. This one, a little scraggly looking, sure. No hair grows on the back by its butt. It's blind. We're just going to sacrifice it anyways, right? What difference does it make? And so that's the gift that they'd come. They'd bring that. That's the attitude that they had underneath what they gave. What's left over? What I didn't need? Something I didn't want anyways. Malachi 1:8 tells you how God feels about this. He says, when you bring blind animals for sacrifice, blind, taking their leftovers, junk, stuff that you didn't want. When you bring what you didn't miss anyways for sacrifice, is that not wrong? When you sacrifice crippled or diseased stuff you didn't want, stuff that you could spare, it's not going to make any difference to your life anyways. When you sacrifice those, is that not wrong? Try offering them to your governor. Try going before it's April, right? Some of you still haven't done your taxes. So call up the government and say, here's what I'm going to do. I have this much money left over, and that's what I'm going to give for my taxes. It's going to be okay because I'm giving it to you. Granted, it's, a third of 1%. But you're going to have to make do with that because that's what I have available for you, Canada Revenue Agency. Are they going to be okay with this? Try it and find out. Try offering that to your governor. Could you get away with that? Would he be pleased with you? Would he accept you? Says the Lord Almighty. When we arrange our life around God, the tithe comes out and it comes out easily. It's the first thing that you give. It's not yours. It was His anyways. Give up in that way. Give it to Him joyfully. Give it to Him with worship and watch. Watch how He fills your life with what you need. The idea of it not costing us something is something that we all kind of like, right? As long as it doesn't hurt my lifestyle. King David, when he was doing stuff, they're going to have a big celebration one day. They're having a big sacrifice. And so a guy comes up to him and says, hey, you're not at home anyways. I got a couple of oxen. Why don't you take my oxen and sacrifice them? And David says in 2 Samuel 24:24, he says, no, I insist on paying for it. I will not sacrifice to the Lord my God burnt offerings that cost me nothing. It must cost something. Now, I don't want to preach this in such a way that someone who is wealthy or feels good about what they have, that they're somehow wrong. God blesses, right? I believe that firmly. God blesses, and we get blessed in different ways, different people. It's not about guilt. What I want to do is call you so you can see what you put your trust in first. Where does your heart go first? Is it to God? Do you believe that He will provide everything that you need? Or do you believe that He'll provide everything you need as long as I have my stuff? Which God are you following first? Mammon or Jesus? Which one has your attention and your focus? Because mammon is a false god. It's an idol. It will always lie. It will always fail. It will always deceive you. It will fall out. You cannot be serving both God and money. It's one or the other. Either He is King of kings and Lord of lords, the great provider, and you live like this is true, or He has no place in your life because you have put a God in front of Him named Mammon. What is your choice today? Let's pray. Father God, I thank you for the way that you interact in our lives, the way you bring us peace, the way you bring us life, and life abundant. You didn't say, I've called my people to barely scratch by. You promised us life and life abundant. God, I pray that you would give us a faith that's not first and only in my head. It's not what I say to other people, but it's what I will live out myself. It's what I will choose to do on Tuesday and Thursday, week after week. I will believe that you are the God who provides all that I need beyond all I can ask or imagine. Give me freedom to do this, Father, because it's a struggle. It's hard. Holy Spirit, guide me this week as I make my decisions, as I buy what I need to buy, as I order my life. Be there to remind me I want to choose you first. You are my God. You are the only God that I will serve. Guide me in ordering my life in that way. In Jesus' name, amen.